Hello and welcome to Business Insight, where we discuss innovation, entrepreneurship, market trends, and anything business. I'm your host, Adesoa Iromosele, and today we'll be talking about the Budget Appropriation Bill, which was passed yesterday, the 29th of November 2023. President Bola Tinubu on Wednesday, that was yesterday, presented the 27.5 trillion naira 2024 budget proposal to a joint session of the 10th National Assembly in Abuja. And this was his first since assuming office exactly six months ago. Now, there was a lot said by the president during the presentation of the 2024 budget proposal, which was tagged Budget of Renewed Hope. Okay, of course, there was the 7-point agenda, which included national defense, job creation, poverty reduction, macroeconomic stability, investor environment optimization, human capital development, and social security. But it was also stated that the very point which was paramount, which was top on the list, which was of top priority, is the issue of national defense, and internal security. And it was stated, according to the president, that is his top priority, and the internal security architecture will be overhauled to enhance law enforcement capabilities and safeguard lives, property, and investment across the country. Now we'll be taking a snippet to see what was said during this presentation of the budget by the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Let's take a listen.
Revenue inflow was 8.65 trillion naira, approximately 96% of the targeted 8.28 trillion naira. Despite the challenges, we continue to meet all our obligations. So the theme and priority of the 2024 budget, distinguished senators, honorable members, permit me to highlight key issues relating to the budget proposal for the next fiscal year. The 2024 appropriation has been themed Budget of Renewed Hope. The proposed budget seeks to achieve job-rich economic growth, macroeconomic stability, a better investment environment, enhanced human capital development, as well as poverty reduction and greater access to social security. Defense and internal security are recorded top priority. The internal security architecture will be overhauled to enhance law enforcement capabilities and safeguard lives, property, and investment across the country.
President Bola Tinubu talking a little bit about insecurity and the fact that it intends to, look into that area, and that aspect is top priority. Now, let's also take a listen to what the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, had to say about insecurity in Nigeria.
Legislative agenda will place a strong emphasis on national security, recognizing it as a cornerstone for progress. These challenges demand a united front. We remain steadfast in our determination to work collaboratively with the executive arm and the judiciary to address and overcome the security challenges confronting our dear nation. In this National Assembly, the death of any Nigerian equates a loss of a constituent to one of us. So whenever we lose anyone to insecurity, it is the sound of the ambulance passing by our window. We believe that insecurity can and must be stopped, and it must be stopped by all Nigerians, running around and supporting government efforts. We also want to seize this opportunity to appreciate our armed forces for fighting for us and sometimes paying the supreme sacrifice for our security. And Mr. President, so far, you have taken the right steps, and calm is returning to our dear nation. We need.
All right, that was Senate President Godswill Akpabio. Now, today we'll be discussing, this is what we'll be discussing today, and of course we have joining us virtually a guest by the name Bolahon Olojede, and he is a public policy analyst, is joining us virtually. Good morning, Mr. Bolahon. Could you please unmute your mic so we can hear you in the studio?
Hello, good morning. Can you hear me now?
Okay, I can hear you faintly, but I think that is something that can be fixed in due time. So, Mr. Bolahon, what do you think of the budget? I mean, you listened to it, you watched it. What do you think of this proposed budget of 27.5 trillion naira? I mean, what were your first thoughts? Let's hear it.
It's a good place to start to stabilize and walk the country out of its current economic doldrum. As far as size is concerned, it is not particularly big. In reality, if you convert last year's budget to dollars and this year to dollars as well, you'll be surprised that it's not even an increase on what we had last year. So in terms of size, it is tiny, but I also understand the fact that there is no way we can dramatically rev up our revenue within a short period. So it's a welcome development. The areas of focus are quite interesting. So my admonition to the government would be that we have a commitment to a disciplined execution of the budget. Hitherto, the way we have treated budget, we have not treated it as a critical planning document, but that is what it is. So I'm hoping that this time around, there will be a disciplined execution of the critical items of that 2024 budget.
Now let's look at the 7-point agenda, which included national defense, job creation, poverty reduction, macroeconomic stability, investor environment optimization, human capital development, social security. Isn't this similar to last year's agenda? Why do we keep seeing this same agenda? What has changed? What is different now compared to the previous agenda?
In terms of what has changed, nothing much has changed. And the reason is not far-fetched because those problems that we're trying to solve are still here with us. So if you take the issue of insecurity, we've been on it for over a decade. And unfortunately, it is not Uhuru yet. Of course, there might have been some wins here and there. For example, it is fair to say that the Northeast is not as hot as it used to be. But that is not to say everything has calmed down. I think about a week ago, they were still kidnapped in Zamfara State by people who were collecting taxes. We have bandits who are collecting taxes, who came to town to kidnap people for not paying taxes. So the insecurity is still there. I can even share with you a personal experience. I have a partner that I do some agric investment with, sometimes somewhere in the middle belt of Nigeria. And we have done some rice and cowpea this year. On the last off-season election date, I think that was November 17 or thereabout, some herders took their cattle into our cowpea farm and grazed the cattle on the cowpea farm. When they left the cowpea farm, they marched into the rice farm. Meanwhile, here I am still paying loan. Got loan to do some agric investment, and then some cattle have been grazed on the farm that we're doing, So when you have those kind of situations, it endangers the food security for the nation. It also adds on to the inflationary pressure that we are, sorry, the inflationary pressure in the country. Don't forget that food inflation is a major driver of our composite inflation figure. So for as long as the food prices are high, for as long as farmers are scared to go to the farm and plant, those who have planted are worried about being killed on their own farm. So people even planted, and to go and harvest becomes a problem. For as long as all those insecurity issues remain there, it will be difficult for us as a nation to have food sufficiency or food security, as the case may be, and we will find it difficult to fight inflationary pressure because food will remain expensive.
I was going to mention all of that. I mean, you've just highlighted the issues with insecurity, but Bola Tinubu stated that he outlined the fact that there will be an overhauling of the internal security architecture to enhance enforcement, capabilities within the nation. Now, how do you think they can go about this? What can they do differently? Because these are the same things we hear over and over again. What's difference? What will be done differently this time around to ensure that insecurity is curbed to the barest minimum in the country?
I will still put it at the doorstep of disciplined execution. Let me tell you what has happened in the case that I share with you. It's a personal case. Some of the headers were eventually arrested. Estimates were made of a few millions of damage, but the offer, where there was a particular farmer who was also affected, his own estimate of damage was about 2.5 million. The offer from the cattle headers was 30,000 naira. So 30,000 naira as a compensation for a 2.5 million naira damage. And the view of the Farmers Association was that there were certain compromises involving the security agency. And that was why this thing has been proceeding the way it is proceeding. So I will put what we need to do differently at the footstep of disciplined execution. Somebody must be watching from whatever is going on. So if there are security agencies in the field, there must be oversight on their action. What is going on at their field of operation? There must be feedback so that when things are not going right, there will be intervention at the right level. We must also address issues around the welfare of people that we're putting in the front. If a soldier is in the front line and he has cause for concern about his own welfare, then we are jeopardizing the assignment because there may be compromises. So we must address this thing holistically. Welfare of security agencies must be taken care of. Salaries paid when due, allowances made available when due. Other concerns that affect them are also dealt with. At the same time, in those theaters of operations, there must be a mechanism that gathers information and feedback and give it to the bosses who may not be in the forefront, so that when things are going wrong, they know in time, they can intervene and they can realign the strategy to deliver on what we seek to deliver. These are some of the things we need to do differently. Otherwise, next year, the same thing will still be there. The year after, it will still be the same thing, trying to cure the same problem for over a decade.
Now, looking at the agricultural sector, you've already highlighted it about how farmers are even scared to go to their farms, and of course that is causing inflation in food price, and of course the food circulation even in the country is greatly depreciated. But what would you say about the mobilization of security agents, to parts of, because there was an issue of them saying security agents would be withdrawn from, from celebrities and people in power and all that, so that we can have enough hands, to ensure security in Nigeria. What can the government do to, to ensure that more security agents, join the force to ensure that there is a level of security in Nigeria?
Now, there was actually an agenda in that direction started by the previous administration. So I believe some recruitment have been going on, both into the military and the police force. As a matter of fact, a younger friend of mine who had been trying to get into the army sent me an information yesterday that I think he's been invited for certain preliminary stuff regarding that recruitment. So I'm aware that certain recruitment are going on. However, you mentioned something that I think I should speak to. The issue of, we're going to withdraw policemen from some VIPs and all that. I've been hearing it for 2-3 decades. I can't remember for as long as that's been. The only problem is that it has not happened. So should I trust that it will happen? Honestly, I don't have any trust. I'll just have to watch. When it happens, we know it has happened. Otherwise, it remains what it is, just a fanciful speech about pulling out, pulling the security men that attack VIPs. I'm not sure it will happen until it eventually happens. The reason why this VIP, and this is the funny thing about the country, the reasons these VIPs need policemen is a vote of no confidence on the security of the environment. If you think your environment is secure, then why do you, as a politician, need all that retinue, or the VIP need all that retinue of security men? It's your own vote of no confidence in the security environment. Now, as a decision maker, or as someone who has a role in also helping to, rejig the security of the environment, what are you doing about that? Are you just comfortable with the fact that you think that your own security, as long as you are secure, then maybe it doesn't matter what happens in the rest of your environment? Until we cure that kind of a mentality, which I believe that maybe if we pull off some of the security men from VIP, maybe they will begin to focus on the real issue, because they also now get exposed as much as the rest of us. So security is a general thing and is the responsibility of everybody, including the VIPs. Let us take a second look at that nexus, and maybe after decades of mouthing the issue of withdrawing policemen from VIP, maybe we'll be able to do it. I don't know, but it's something left to be seen. However, the critical matter is the involvement of everybody in security. When you see something, you say something. At the level of individuals, at the level of the community, at the level of traditional rulers, everybody needs to get involved. But the government has the primary #1 role, because that is constitutional. The security and welfare of the people is the primary responsibility, is the primary reason that we even have a government. So they have to do a lot. But maybe the funding being made available, I think about 3.25 trillion for under 2024 budget will help to bring something to the table as far as improving the security of the environment is concerned. Let me give kudos to our security men who are in the front line. A lot is going on, a lot is happening, but a lot more still has to be done.
Really has to be done. Now, going back to the budget, do you think 27.5 trillion naira is sufficient to carry out all of this agenda, the 7-point agenda? Do you think it is sufficient? I mean, last year it was about 21-point-something trillion naira, and that's just about 5 trillion naira difference compared to what it is now. Do you think this is sufficient? Because I don't know how far you could enlighten us on that as well. We don't know how far the budget for last year went in ensuring, in trying to curb most of all of these issues we have in Nigeria. Do you think this new budget would be sufficient?
Well, the new budget can set the foundation, and it can begin to direct us in the right way that we should. But that whether it is sufficient for a 200 million people economy, The answer is actually no. Let me give you an indication as to how small it is. South Africa is a 60 million people economy. The 2022-23 budget for South Africa is about 4 times or 5 times, about 5 times this 27.5 trillion naira that you are talking about, 5 times. So it gives you an indication that while it appears staggering, it is a token. It doesn't cut it. But then, can we at least make the best use of what we have in the place of disciplined execution and let it count for the people? That is the plea. So while it is not enough, it can set the foundation for stability. It can set the foundation for improved security environment. It can set the foundation for improved social environment, and we can build on it going forward.
Indeed. Now, what do you think are the challenges that would hinder, everything put in place right now to ensure security in Nigeria? What are the other challenges that would hinder, us from seeing the benefits of this amount of money put into security and to ensure security in Nigeria? What do you think would hinder the possibility of this really happening?
It's the corruption environment. What corruption does is that it frustrates the commitment to making those numbers they're talking about to count for us as Nigerians. But if we are able to keep our eyes on the ball, and this will also include ordinary citizens, the NGOs, the civil society organizations, to get involved in our budget monitoring. The beautiful thing about the budget is that it's a public document. The details are available and they are typically put on the website of the budget office of the Federation. If you even want the past 4 or 5 years, you will see it there. So by the time the detailed approved budget is there on the site, people need to show more interest and put the operators on their toes, ask questions, raise challenges, and maybe by so doing, we can help in the area of disciplined execution if we ask questions and put them on their toes. I'll give you a very good example. Recently, there was this issue of a letter written by Mr. Doherty in Lagos to the executive governor of Lagos, asking for certain information or clarification or pointing direction at certain expenditures of the government. How was he able to do that? Number one, he knew that the information is public information. It is available. You can get it. So he got it. He reviewed it. After he has reviewed it, then he was able to raise certain issues and write a letter about it. That is the kind of involvement that more Nigerians and civil society organizations need to get involved. When we do that, we're able to put the operators on their toes, and it might just help us with the disciplined execution of these numbers that we have on it.
Indeed. Now you spoke on involvement of citizens. Now, how do you think the agricultural sector can thrive and fight against this issue of insecurity? Do we go the way of investment? What can the government do to get people to invest in this sector and also ensure the security of farmers in Nigeria?
Okay, I'm going to tell you something right away. Because of my experience in the farming activity that I got involved with this year, I'm not looking forward to going into another planting season. I'm still paying down on my loan. Meanwhile, cattle have been grazed on my farm or on the farm that I co-invested in. So I'm not particularly excited. So what that says to me is that government must address those issues. We up till now, we have not addressed the farmer either issues with the kind of finality that one will expect? Can we confront it? Can we discuss it? Can we, and how do we encourage investment? If I will put my money on the table and I'm not so sure I will get anything out of it. So we've spoken in this country about grazing, and we've spoken about how open grazing must be discouraged, how there must be ranching, how cows and cattle and all, must be kept in ranches. How government may need to intervene to intervene not just from a security perspective, but from an economic perspective, to ensure that ranching will happen. Because without the economic side of the intervention, ranching will not happen in this country. It won't. It's just a joke. So those are some of the things that will help agricultural or crop producers to feel comfortable to go into that farm, knowing that nobody is coming to machete them on their farm, and nobody is coming to graze farms on their sweat of several months. So, sorry, we must go in the direction of solving those problems at those levels, to encourage agriculturists to be able, or farmers rather, to go into the farm and produce what we need for us. If we don't do that, we're just wasting time. Other things that needed to be done is we have realized, for example, that we're not planting enough, we're not cultivating enough acreage. And I'm delighted that the current government, at some point, that was in the July address by the president, spoke about 500,000 hectares of land that will be put into farming. That particular address spoke about irrigation. It spoke about commercial farming. So we have realized that we don't have enough commercial farm. What we're doing is subsistence farming. So we want to do more commercial farming. We want to do more irrigated farming. We want to put 500,000 hectares more into farmland, into farming. Let's begin to do it. It is not enough for those things to be said on paper. We must begin to do it. And in the place of doing it is that we want to see the corn going into the soil, the rice going into the soil, and the plants. And when harvest season comes, there is multiplication of harvest. That is in the place of doing. So we must take things out of the books and out of the speeches into the field and begin to make them happen.
Now, Mr. Bolahon, as a public and policy analyst, what would you, how would you advise the populace to hold the government accountable to ensure transparency and accountability, on the side of the government? What can we do to hold them responsible and hold them to their words? They say they are going to do this for the agricultural sector. How do we hold them accountable if they fail, on their word, basically?
We continue to demand. Like I said earlier in this meeting, the budget is a public information. It's typically on the website. You just go on the website of Budget Office of the Federation. You will see not only the big numbers, you will see all the allocation to every ministry's department and agencies of government, including the teaching hospital that is in your state. All of them are there. And not only are they there, they are broken down into the capital expenditure, the personnel cost, and all those other breakdowns. So if you want to know that, oh, this particular hospital, there is a budget for an MRI machine this year, it will be there. You can see it. So since we know that this information are there, let's show more interest, get those information, and be able to ask questions along the way. I give the example of what Mr. Doherty did last week in Lagos, about the Lagos expenditure. All of us, each and every one of us can do it. Civil society organizations can do it. So when we see things that do not accord or that require further clarification, then we ask questions. Things that doesn't look as if, that don't look as if they are going in the right direction, we ask questions from the executive. We have the right to ask questions. Or we can go to the lawmakers and put it to them and raise petitions, to the lawmakers. These are things we can all do in the place of participation. We can be more involved in what is going on, ask more questions, raise petitions, and we will be able to put operators on their toes as far as 2024 is concerned.
Very much for that one. Now, how can government now effectively engage and collaborate with relevant stakeholders, which includes, of course, security agencies, local communities, and civil society organizations to achieve the desired security goals or outcomes?
There's something called management by walkaround, walking around. And what essentially does it say? It says that the boss must, from time to time, take a walk on the floor, on the shop floor. Of course, the boss has the people that report to him. Hey, the director of this, the director of that. They are all big people. But that occasionally, these bosses should take a walk on the shop floor and have an engagement with ordinary people, ordinary worker on the shop floor. Because sometimes the feedback that you get from the shop floor is totally different from what you get from your director of this and director of that. And it helps you to have a good feel of what is going on. So it would be nice that there are more engagements from CEOs of, various government agencies who have responsibility for decision making, engagement at various levels, including what you call, you have all this in some other countries what we call state of the nation address, where the president have a press engagement as well. In the course of the press engagement, you have many press people who are more in touch with the road, with the street, and can bring the perspective of the street directly to the decision makers and ask them questions. So by so doing, there are connections that go beyond what the big boys are telling the big boss. So the big boss is able to relate more to what is going on the street beyond what he is being told. It is something we may need to look at doing more. A situation in which people at the decision-making level have conferences or events or engagement that allow them to have a direct connectivity or connection to the ordinary citizen.
Now, away from government now, what can public and private partnership, do to strengthen security measures and also address the existing gap in the security sector?
Well, private organizations, like I must have said at some point in this, security is actually not just a government affair. Although government has the primary responsibility, it is the very essence of why they are there. But security is something for everybody. When you take the security architecture of a place like, I will use Lagos State as an example. All those vehicles that we see with the police in Lagos State, they are not bought by government. There is an arrangement with the private sector where the private sector fund a lot of those expenditure, because the private sector is also a major beneficiary of a secured environment. So from procurement of vehicles, patrol vehicles, to issues around even bulletproof and other expenditure that are required for security in an environment, the private corporate organizations get involved in a place like Lagos. And I want to believe that it is not just in Lagos, that maybe it's also happening in other parts of the country. That's at the corporate level. At the individual level, it is a matter of information. When you see something, you say something. From the resident estate associations, you have all these resident associations, you have landlord associations, you have security, private security arrangements in several parts, including even vigilante. All these are structures within the security architecture. and individuals who pass information on their observation onto the nearest security structure to them. It could be the vigilante, it could be the resident association, it could be the landlord association in your environment that you are close to. Pass on information onto them. And this information will be escalated further up to the levels where decisions on security can be made. So individuals, corporate organizations must be involved at their own levels in the security of the society. While government is the primary guy, all the other guys have a role. Security is a job for everybody.
Mr. Gbolahan, you'd have to hold on because we are going on a short break. When we return, we'll continue this conversation. Stay with us.
My name is Olatunji Shoti Miri. I'm a performing artist and, television radio presenter and a university lecturer, Unilag. Keep watching Sook News.
Hello everyone, my name is Kenny Black, Africa's finest music comedian, and you're watching Sook News. If you're not watching Sook News, I pity you, but keep watching Sook News.
Hello everyone, my name is Timida Kolo and you're watching Sook News. Stay tuned.
Hi, my name is Wisdom Oluwaseun Okoko, co-founder Orbit Africa Properties. I'm live at Sook News. Guys, keep watching Sook News. For everything that concerns business, economy, politics, news, Sook News is your station.
Buying the name of the company is not the issue. Buying the person that has the ideas is more important. And if you lose that person, then you really have an empty can. In an earlier share, I talked about the concept of entrepreneurship, where the entrepreneur is an entrepreneur that doesn't want to take the risk of going to set up a business by himself for the high risk of failure, but still wants to actualize his purpose and passion and his dream within a corporate setting. And if he can find a culture that supports that and the environment where he can thrive, then you have a successful entrepreneur, and there is an entrepreneurial environment for business. How do we empower or enable entrepreneurship in our business? So with the plethora of fintechs and the challenge to banks, many banks went out there to do the natural thing that comes to them, buy the competition. So they went and bought the fintech companies along with the founder of the fintech company, which is a beautiful marriage. If you can create the environment that enables that entrepreneur business that you bought to continue to deliver at speed and at scale, as they would have if they were outside your corporate environment. Many did not succeed because they ended up with an empty can. Buying the name of the company is not the issue. Buying the person that has the ideas is more important. And I think that what we need to do as corporate businesses is to think about how to create an environment for the entrepreneur business that we buy and the entrepreneur founder that we have brought in, the space to be creative, to innovate, to experiment, to learn, to unlearn, to make mistakes and learn from the mistakes, without constricting him with this full rigor of the tight control environment that the business has. If we can find a way of marrying that need for creativity and innovation with the results that are produced and managing the risk, then we have a successful partnership between the entrepreneur and the corporate business called entrepreneurship.
Welcome back. You're still watching Business Insight, and we still have with us Mr. Gbolahan Olojade, who is a public and policy analyst, and we've been discussing on the budget appropriation bill, which was passed yesterday. So, Mr. Gbolahan, I hope you're still with us. Okay, kindly unmute your mic so we can hear you.
I am right here.
Okay, so now with regards to agriculture, what best practices would you advise the government to adopt? You know, how is it done in other climes that Nigerians can actually, that Nigeria as a nation can, you know, more like, I don't want to use the word copy from, but duplicate here in Nigeria to ensure security and availability of food in circulation in the country?
Okay, for most part of the world, where agriculture has been successful, you don't have situations in which herders graze their cattle on other people's farm. So the issue of ranching and stoppage of open grazing must be revisited and addressed with some level of finality. Whatever economic intervention we need to put in place to make this happen, we should do it. Number two, we have had major problems as a country with what you call yield. Yield per hectare in Nigeria is generally low. Whatever product category you pick, you find the same problem, whether it is maize or rice or, everything. What that means is that in this product category, we plant a hectare in Nigeria and, for example, get 2 tons of product. And you go to, say, in South Africa, and the farmer plant the same 1 hectare and get 4 tons. So you're asking yourself, why is he getting 4 tons from his own 1 hectare and now I'm getting 2 tons? That is an issue of yield. So our farming practices must change. The seed that goes into the soil, we must do something about making improved, higher yield seedlings available to the farmers. Issues around fertilizers must be addressed so that we can improve our own yield per hectare, rather than just thinking that, oh, the only solution is continue to plant more hectare, more hectare, more hectare. Yes, more hectare is good because we have the farmland, but what we get out of 1 hectare of land must also be improved. And this happens in the place of research and technology. I remember watching a couple of years ago a gentleman who was a rice farmer, and he was saying, look, when it comes to the harvest time, they hire people to go and chase birds away from the rice farm. And I asked myself, is that how they do it in Thailand or America? They hire people to go and chase birds out. Or are there other more sophisticated and effective ways in which farmers in those places are they able to chase away those birds from, eating up the produce? So that's in another part. We must deal with issues of storage. Storage is a major problem in Nigeria. So the combination of storage, and I'll wrap it up with you, I will also put in road infrastructure, connecting centers of production to the market. In that means, you see, in certain product categories in Nigeria, as much as 40% of what is produced gets rotten and is damaged. It doesn't count for the farmer. So the farmer in some of those product categories actually make losses by virtue of that. And the little that is made available, the prices will go up. Why does that happen? Storage facility and the poor connection between centers of production and the various markets. So where the guy that has produced perishable, produced, say, tomato, and within 2-3 days, tomatoes start to get rotten. But because the road from my farm to the nearest big market is extremely horrible, when the truck comes, they spend 2 days on the road before they can move it from the farm to the market. Half of the tomato is gone, it's lost to rot. So we have to deal with matters of storage, and we have to deal with matters pertaining to road infrastructure connecting rural areas to the urban centers. We must also be ready to deal with matters of electricity, because it plugs into storage. Some of the storage requirements that we need are actually electricity-based. So if there is no electricity, how do you facilitate a storage that is based on electricity? So it goes down to issues around power as well, making power available. Some of the storage that we also need to extend the shelf life of product is actually certain level of processing. So this primary level of processing to extend the shelf life of the product also involve power. So how can we make power available to extend the shelf life to be able to do certain level of processing of farm produce are some of the things we need to work on. If we're able to fix most of these issues, food security becomes an achievable thing for us as a country.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gbolahan. But before I let you go, answer me this. Do you, can we say that the lack of infrastructure is one of the major reasons why we have this level of insecurity in Nigeria? I mean, we have most parts, you know, where people farm, especially in the north, you know, covered with bushes and all whatnot, which encourages, you know, some level of insecurity even in those parts. So do you think we can link infrastructure to the lack of security in the country? And yes, just answer that before we round up the show.
Definitely. There's this very popular Abuja project, CCTV project, that never happened. Can you imagine what that would have done to a city like Abuja if things that are going on in that metropolis are covered by CCTV? So we definitely must address infrastructure issue. Power issue. The last kidnap that happened in Zamfara, the people were said to have come on motorbikes and they kidnapped 100 people. I'm talking of about a week ago. How do you kidnap 100 people on Okada if we are in an environment where the right infrastructure is available? So infrastructure definitely is a major issue that is drawing us back as far as security is concerned.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gbolahan Olojade. He is a public and policy analyst, and he has been with us discussing this topic. Thank you so much for joining us on the show, Mr. Gbolahan.
The pleasure is mine. Thanks for having me.
Yes. And with that, we draw the curtain on Business Insights this morning. Many thanks for staying with us. Join us again tomorrow for an even more in-depth analysis session. Thank you so much for staying with us. On behalf of the team and the crew, we say have a wonderful day.